All right, hey everyone. Hope you guys are having a great Saturday. Obviously, what's going on with Bitcoin is fascinating, right? We had a huge dip here today, big red crash on the market. Part of that might be obviously the things that are going on with Israel and the neighboring countries over there. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but that might be a reason. We also might have the reason because the spot Bitcoin ETFs are going to be happening in Hong Kong, right? Could be also driving the price down in Bitcoin, trying to get a better buy-in price potentially. So there's a couple of things that might be at play here. But we have that obviously going on. We'll take a look at obviously a couple of stories that we have here is on Bitfarms. They're at 7 exahash. We also have some news from Paraguay as far as the mining situation there and possible ban or not ban. We have some update there. And then we also have Cleanspark to talk about, which they are getting to, well, they got to 17 exahash now, but they also increased or upgraded their option to buy an additional 100,000 miners. The previous order was for the S21s. Now they upped that to the S21's Pros. So that's great news there. That gives them about 3.4 exahash more in hash rate for the same price, which is nice to see. Okay, so we got a lot to go over here, and we got, well, wow, we got 5 days now until the Bitcoin halving event happens. So we're getting closer and closer, and we'll see how that's going to play out for us. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and I'm investing in flying coins and companies for full disclosure. Corrections will be posted to Discord through Patreon and then YouTube and Twitter as well. And I am not paid by any public mining company. And if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's get into what's happening here with Bitcoin really quick, and then we'll get into the stories that we do have, and we'll get to the Q&A as well. So obviously my line here got broken. It was, I mean, my line originally was like up here that I thought might be our support line. But that obviously fell today. Partially on the news, I think, of what's going on with Israel and the whole war there going on right now, potential war. That had an effect on it. I think also maybe the Hong Kong ETFs that are going to be happening possibly next week. That's maybe also what kind of triggered this as well, or was a combination of both potentially. We don't know exactly what's happened there, but we did get a pretty nice bounce on it here. So it kind of came down to our green line here, which has been set at 61,000. Came down to that, bounced off of it. And right now we are back at our previous support, which is at 63,750 roughly, right? We've seen pretty good support here in the past, and that's kind of where we are with it right now as well. So time will tell, right? Where do we actually end up at? We got 5 days till the halving now. So we're getting really, really close here, and we'll see how this all plays out. The miners yesterday also had a pretty bad day. I did buy Bitfarms and IREN yesterday as well on the dip. I posted in the Patreon group, and I also posted, I think, on Twitter as well, that I did some shopping. Things were on sale. Seemed like a good time to buy again. And I'll continue to do that as long as I have the cash to do it. Right, so it's short-term pain right now. You got to look at the longer time frame, I think. Longer time frame, we're going to have some pretty good gains here. But we just got to get through this kind of period where we're kind of in between, right? The halving event is obviously coming up. And then a lot of investors are a little spooked by it. And we're kind of seeing the same thing that played out last halving cycle as well. Miners were going down into the halving event as well. Okay. But you can see a lot of the miners were down. The only one that was up actually was CORZ, which is up a penny here, it looks like. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. Now, let's get into the stories that we do have here. And the first one is going to be on Paraguay. So the Paraguayan Senate supports selling power to crypto mining companies, criticizes subpar energy agreements with Brazil. So this is actually pretty good news here, right? A lot of us were concerned that having Bitfarms in there, what does it actually mean for them, right? We saw a proposed amendment to a bill or something like that get added in there that was going to ban Bitcoin mining for 180 days, right? And was that only for new miners or miners that are already in the country? And it looks like, we do have some strong support here. So the Paraguayan Senate has approved a resolution supporting selling the country's energy surplus to crypto mining companies, given the price and guarantees that these institutions offer. The declaration criticizes the subpar agreements that sell energy to Brazil for 25% of the fees collected from mining activities, calling to direct this energy to 20 new contracts with crypto mining companies instead, right? So there's a lot more positive, I think, here with Paraguay than there was just a couple weeks ago or a week or two ago with the supposed mining ban potentially. So I think this is all great news here, and it's going to bode well for Bitfarms that's in there, for Marathon that has a joint venture in there as well, and for any company that's really trying to get into it, especially since they have that massive hydro plant there, right? So I think this is all great news here going forward. So leading into this, obviously, Bitfarms provided us with an update here yesterday. And the reason I didn't do a video yesterday, I was just too busy, didn't get home until late. So by the time I would have been doing a video, it would have been like 10 o'clock or something like that. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. But so we're getting into things today, getting caught up a little bit here. But Bitfarms reaches 7 exahash with completion of fleet upgrade at Garlock and at Farnham facilities. So this is great news. They're changing out some of the older miners there, putting in some of the newer miners as well. And they're obviously looking to grow that hash rate even more. Going down here. So today, Bitfarms announced the completion of its first 2 farm upgrades with over 5,000 Bitmain T21 miners installed and operating in Quebec. Our Bitmain miner installations kickstart our transformative fleet upgrade and have improved energy efficiency by approximately 51% in both our Garlock and Farnham farms, said Murphy here, which is great. The 51% improvement in site energy efficiency demonstrates the transformative nature of our upgrade plan and how well it's positioning Bitfarms leading into and after the upcoming halving event, which is great, right? They did have some older, a little bit older miners there that weren't too bad, but it's nice to see that they are upgrading those facilities and getting that in, right? That's going to lower their overall break-even cost on the mining side of things, everything else on that, so that's good, and we do have some more here. So upgrade highlights: at Garlock, the company installed 3,168 T21s. At Farnham, the company installed 1,710 T21s and 100 M53S plus hydro miners. We'll take a look at the pictures down below, but that's great news there. And then in Q2 24, more than 30,000 additional T21s are scheduled to be delivered to the company's existing locations, including its newest development in Paso Pe, Paraguay, right? Paraguay. That's the big thing. So I don't see any issues going forward for them at being able to build out in Paraguay. I think that is, unless something else happens, I don't see that being a problem right now for them. So I'm not too concerned about it. Bitfarms Chief Mining Officer Ben stated, leveraging our existing facilities and the strength of our operations team, Bitfarms has already energized over 5,000 T21s with installations at our 3rd location underway. As we deploy an additional 30,000 miners this quarter, we expect to drive rapid increase in both our hash rate and energy efficiency while executing towards our 12 exahash and 21 targets by the end of the year. So great news there. And here you can see some of the T21s that are racked in this facility here. And then you got the actual hydro miner being in this container here, right? So that's all great news here. And then if we look at the numbers here for Bitfarms right now, I tried to figure out as best as I could as far as what was taken out. It's not going to be the best, but I took out some of these 103 terahash miners here that they had going into April here. Obviously, we don't have April figures yet, but I took those out and added some of these miners that they said that they put in here, the 100 of these hydro miners and about 5,000 of these T21s. And that got us to about 7 exahash, which is what they reported here. So we're pretty good on that. So that is great news. That gets them obviously closer to 12 exahash, which they want to reach by the end of Q2, I believe. And then the 21 exahash by the end of the year. So I think we're straight on that path going forward. And definitely looking forward to seeing those getting installed. Okay, so that's it for that one. Let's take a look at Cleanspark here really quick as well. Cleanspark provided a bunch of news here on Friday. So Cleanspark exceeds 17 exahash exercises and upgrades previously announced option for 100,000 Bitcoin mining machines. Excuse me. Here's what we have. So Cleanspark today announced it has exceeded 17 exahash per second of operating hash rate and has exercised its option to purchase 100,000 Bitmain S21 Pros or 23.4 exahash of machines. There's some interesting tidbits down here as well. The machine purchase is an amendment to an existing agreement with Bitmain announced earlier this year, right? They announced it with the regular S21s, 400,000 of those. The amendment allowed the company to purchase the S21 Pro model instead of the S21. The cost per terahash is maintained at the industry low price of $16 per terahash for the more efficient miner. And it's great because those are like 15 joules per terahash. They stated right here. The S21 Pro operates at 15 joules per terahash, a 14% improvement over the S21, which is currently the most efficient miner available on the market at 17.5 joules per terahash. The improved efficiency of the S21 Pro means that the company will still acquire the same number of machines, but will with a 17% increase in hash rate, or approximately 3.4 exahash more of hash rate, which is great. And then, let me see here. We are well suited to take advantage of the opportunities that the halving affords and look forward to continue our unmatched growth. This is from, I believe, CEO Zach Bradford, yeah. Under the agreement, the new S21s are scheduled for delivery between June and December 2024, right? So, I mean, that's really close here. If that gets exercised and it gets, well, I think it's going to get exercised, but if it gets approved by Bitmain, which I'm guessing it's going to get approved, I'll be honest, I haven't seen the contract yet. But I would expect that to go through. But that basically means that they are getting miners now to get to 50 exahash or around there by the end of this year, potentially. The big thing for us is the question is, where are they going to put all those miners at? Right now, they have infrastructure to get into basically 20 exahash by the end of this quarter. And then that means they're having to find infrastructure for the next 30 exahash potentially by the end of this year, if that's the goal. Because why would you order miners if you don't have a place to possibly put them in? So I'm guessing they may have something in the works in the background there that we're just not privy to right now, that they might be having some deals that are going to be coming up here to buy infrastructure or land or something that they are going to need to grow to that. But you can see here that, let me see here. Originally, let's see, I changed it up here, that should be June to December. But that was originally, I thought, not until next year that they would get that additional 100,000 machines, possibly into 2025, to get them to 50 exahash by then. But now, since they're getting delivered relatively soon, I'm guessing, and I'm just speculating here, that they could possibly get to 50 exahash by the end of this year, which would be just a phenomenal job if they could do that. Going basically from the 16 exahash they are now to 50 exahash by the end of the year would be, I think, a record for any company that has reached that milestone. So it's going to be tough, and that would result in them having to possibly buy like right around 540 megawatts of infrastructure, right? So that's a lot. And I don't know what kind of deals they're kind of looking at right now, but we do have them at 17 exahash here with the additional miners being installed here. So that's going to be a lot better for the month of April, potentially for them, right? So that's going to definitely increase their hash rate, potentially the revenue as well. The only question is for me on the side of Bitcoin halving, obviously being only 5 days away, and it's going to obviously impact all the miners here. So I've started to do a little bit of calculations on that side of things as far as what could the actual average for the month be as far as Bitcoin block rewards per block reward, right? And then as far as what is the average daily going to be about, right? So we're going to be at, what is it going to be? April 19th or so is when the halving is possibly going to happen potentially. So what I did is I took 19 days times the amount of Bitcoin that they're supposed to mine in that day for everybody. And then I added in the remaining days of 12 days at the half amount and got an average on that. I'm hoping that works out for me, because that's obviously going to be tricky to figure out exactly what they earned potentially on in the month of April, right? With the halving being pretty much in the middle of the month here. But that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. If anybody has a better way of figuring that out, what that might be, let me know on that one. But that is it. Obviously, with them getting to 50 exahash would be great, would be fantastic. But can they actually do that in basically 6 months? That's a huge undertaking. And that's one of the questions here that we have. And we'll have to see what they provide us as far as any updates or news or things like that to that, what is their target now? Okay? But that's it. So great job by Cleanspark, great job by Bitfarms. And let's get into your guys' questions. But as always, my little sales speech here. All these spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members. $8 a month there. You might be able to find a spot for $5 or $4. Description is in the link. This link is in the description. Sorry. That's what I wanted to say. But let's get into your guys' Q&A here. And okay, we are back. All right, so if you guys have any questions, hit me up on those. Let me see here. Turn this off. There we go. Okay. And there's always a delay, like 15 to 20-second delay between what you guys write and what I actually see and things like that. So be patient. I will get to all your guys' questions if you guys have any. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. I'm new to your channel. Do you also touch in institutional ownership? BlackRock owns 30%. Yeah, we cover institutional ownership at least once a month. We'll go through it as far as, I don't go into details as far as which company owns what, but we do take a look at as far as institutional growth or a decrease in institutional growth in each company that I cover here. We do that monthly usually when like miners report their monthly production updates. Next question here. Cleanspark and Bitfarms stock price of Bitcoin hits 100,000 by the end of 2024. If it only hits at 100,000, at that point, I think maybe Bitfarms gets to like $8 to $10 potentially. If they can get to 21 exahash, Cleanspark, if they can get to what's the goal, 32 exahash by the end of the year, they might be like at $25 to $30 potentially, right? Don't know. It all depends on Bitcoin and where Bitcoin goes. What is the bottom price for Cleanspark on Monday? You believe? Oh, I don't know. To me, it doesn't really matter. I've been in Cleanspark for over 2 years. I've been buying the dips. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're looking to get in, obviously try to get it as low as you can potentially, but I don't know where that's going to be. I don't think anybody knows where it's going to be. What are your current price targets for Cleanspark with today's BTC price according to your spreadsheets at 20 PE? At today's, let me see if I can pull that up. Let me see here. Well, the numbers are based on the last numbers that we have for them for March. So right now, I have them between $12.57 to $18.85. And this was based on March numbers, production numbers for revenue and things like that, which would be for the first quarter, or for them it would be second quarter, but for us it would be first quarter of the year financial results based on that and the previous 3 quarters as well. That's kind of where I'd be looking at. Okay, let's see. What if BTC drops to 40 to 45K? Can Bitfarms still make it? Yeah, because at that point they're getting newer machines being installed, right? So that's going to be an issue for them. Some of the other miners that have older machines at that point will not be profitable possibly at that point. And also the ones that we don't track, some of the public or private miners and things like that, that they have older machines, that's going to probably bring down probably 10 to 20% of the Bitcoin network hash rate down with it. So at that point, it makes Bitfarms, Cleanspark, Marathon, Riot, everybody else more profitable if the network hash rate drops by that much. Let's see. Okay, do you feel like 21 exahash is achievable for Bitfarms by the end of this year, by year's end? Yeah, I do think so. They have the facilities in Paraguay and things like that that can build out and increase their megawatts there. So I do think they have everything that they need right now, I believe, to just build out. But they need to build out. So they need to build out the buildings, the electricity side of things, right? The transformers, all that stuff that's got to get installed and ready for all those machines. So I think it's possible. If Cleanspark is a conservative 70, is Bitfarms 15 to 20 conservative? Yeah, that's kind of where I see them, between 15 and maybe 30 even, right? It all depends where Bitcoin goes. Bitcoin goes up to 200, 250,000 this cycle. We could see that, right? I'd rather kind of caution on the lower end side, mainly because I learned my lesson back in 2021. I had Hive at that point as a stock, and Bitcoin only went up to 69,000. Everybody was saying it's going to go up much higher. Well, I didn't sell Hive at that point. Learned my lesson. Could have had a couple more thousand actually from what I have now, or when I sold it back in, was it November, December last year. So I'd rather be a little bit more conservative on those things and then be a moon boy there. Bitfarms a buy here. Thank you. If you believe in Bitcoin going up in value over the long term, I think the best thing to do is dollar cost average in. I bought Bitfarms on Friday of this, so yesterday, and I also bought it on Tuesday because it was on sale on Tuesday. It was on sale again on Friday. So I've been just dollar cost averaging for the last 2 years. I don't trade it. I accumulate. And then eventually, when we get into bull run and we get much better pricing, at that point, I'll start dollar cost averaging out as well. Question, why BlackRock and company do not buy Bitfarms? They own a lot of Canadian companies. I don't know. Could be a couple of things, right? In the past, going back to 2022, in the bear market, they made some bad decisions. They bought Bitcoin at a higher price. They sold it at a lower price. They also had loans backed by BTC that they had to sell BTC to cover those loans. And then they had obviously debt that they paid off here just recently in the last 2 months or so. But there was a lot of debt, but it's taken them a while to pay it off, but they did pay it off. So for that reason, I'm giving them a lot of benefit, right? That they learned their lesson potentially. and they're looking to grow tremendously, which is I love. I love seeing growth. I love seeing good operational updates, good uptime, good efficiencies, and things like that. And this is what I think is going to actually drive the stock going forward. And eventually, I think maybe BlackRock will get into it potentially. I don't know. Let's see here. Thoughts on miner hodl sell-off. Eventually, the miners will sell, not all of them, and they won't sell everything, I don't think. But we may also have some miners that don't sell, right? We could have Marathon continue to hold through the bear market potentially like they did last time. We could see the same thing with Hut 8 or somebody else, or Cleanspark potentially, right? Cleanspark last time was selling. We don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens on that time, right? Can you cover my first big question regarding Bitfarms upgrade? What was your question? Right, this is delayed a little bit, so I might have skipped it or I might have missed it actually from when I went to the Q&A. So re-ask that question down below. How much do you think Bitcoin will be at the end of 2024? I think it should be at least 100,000, if not more, maybe between 100 and 150,000. That puts us, what, 6 months out or so? Yeah, I think that's possible. Right, we also have the spot Bitcoin ETFs happening in Hong Kong this week potentially. That's going to be another driving catalyst for it, and I think we'll have other countries do the same thing. So that'll just continue to drive the price appreciation of Bitcoin going forward, plus the halving event, less supply, and if you have a heck of a lot more demand, what's going to happen to the price of Bitcoin? It's got to go up. Do you think Cleanspark went into the ATM heavy this past week, and that was a big part of pegging Cleanspark at mid 15 all week? I don't know. Tough to say. I don't know. Is there any way you can really track that without having knowledge of how many shares are out there? Right. So there's really no way to track it, but they could be, right? Which is okay with me because I know it's getting us growth. So that's fine. It could be also that just the market is going down, right? All the miners are going down pretty much all week of the past 2 weeks. Well, I mean, you could say almost probably like the last 3 months have been going down ever since the beginning of the year. If you look at the charts where Bitcoin's at right now and where the miners are down 20, 30% compared to where Bitcoin is. So I think this is just kind of playing out because of the halving event more so. But there might be also some selling in there as well through the ATM, kind of driving the price down a little bit. Let's see. Would you be worried for Bitfarms if Bitcoin hits 50,000? No. They have a good balance sheet right now. Their debt is paid off. They're installing newer miners. They got growth ahead of them. And, if Bitcoin gets to 50,000, that's going to be a pain for a lot of miners, not just for Bitfarms. It's going to be painful, but depends on Bitcoin. Does it actually stay there does it just dip down and rebounds, right? That's ideal. If it stays there for multiple months, it's going to be painful for a lot of miners. But it's also going to be painful for those that are private, that are older miners. They're going to turn off their machines because it's not profitable for them. And that's going to lower the network hash rate, which is then going to be better for the miners that are still operating. But I don't know if that will happen unless some black swan event. Let's see. What do you know what the Bitfarms efficiency will be when they reach or achieve 12 exahash? It should be like around, I don't have the exact numbers. I have the miners for all that stuff, but I don't have the exact numbers when they would be at 12. I'm looking it up right now really quick. So if I can figure that out, what their efficiency might be. I would have to probably run some numbers on it where that gets them. If they get to 21 exahash, they should be around like 21 joules per terahash, I think. Right? Yeah, 21 exahash, right? Yeah, 21 joules per terahash. Looks like that's what it's going to be based on the numbers that I have. So that's going to be pretty good for them if they can do that. And that's based on having the hydro miners, the T21s as well, and things like that, and changing out some of the older miners that they have in those facilities, which they've been doing kind of recently here. Let's see. Let's see. Would you say the BlackRock and these big investment banks do the same level of due diligence as you? What do you think they tend to look at? I would think they have some probably smarter guys than me even in there, right? They probably even have access to things that I don't have access to from the miners. So they may have some information that they can help them out, analyze them a little bit better. But yeah, I would think that they are doing pretty good research on those things, but they've been also kind of behind the ball a little bit here. They started getting into the miners here in the last, I would say, year, right? I've been coming to the miners for the past 2.5 years, 3 years now, whatever it's been. And I've been buying since 2022, beginning of January. And that's because I didn't know where the bottom is, right? So maybe they're just better at timing the markets, potentially. But we'll see. Let's see. Okay. How is it possible that Bitfarms consistently ranks in the top 3 for the Bitcoin mined per exahash, but yet their efficiency is lower than most? So with that one, if you look at their operational numbers, so efficiency can be what was your hash rate and what did you mine for that hash rate, right? So that's kind of what they're looking at there. And also for the network hash rate, where it's been compared to what they are at. And then what is the difficulty? Obviously, with network hash rate going up, that's going to be you're mining less and less, but that's happening for all the miners here. So it's kind of keeping up with them a little bit, but that really does help them having a great uptime, right? So if you can have great uptime, 99% to close to 99% uptime, that's going to help with the efficiency as well. Let's see. Mara has been doing a lot of international conferences. Are all future joint ventures won't be calculated into their hash rate? Then how do you value their growth potential plans? Good question there. It's tough. It's tough with any company that has joint ventures because unless they have over 50% of that joint venture, they can't report the revenue on revenue side of things. That has to go under a line item and under assets, I think. And then you don't have any costs associated with it. So it's very difficult to figure out what is their cost with it because you don't have those numbers. So with them being right now at over 25 exahash for self-mining and then having a couple exahash with joint ventures, I don't think that's going to be too difficult, but it's the same thing for all the miners like TeraWolf, Cypher. Who else has joint ventures? I'm trying to think here. For a couple of them, right? We do the same thing for those. I value it based on their self-mining, which is normally a much larger portion of it, right? The JVs are a very, very small portion of what they do, and that kind of is the way that I've used those numbers, and it's kind of worked out pretty good, but we'll see. I mean, if somebody has a joint venture of 75%, excuse me, and they only own like 25% of that joint venture, well, I probably won't be covering them because it's just, you can't really figure out how to value them properly, right? You just won't have the costs associated with it or the revenues, so it'll be tough. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Okay. Excuse me. Question. You seem more bullish on Bitfarms than Cleanspark at this point. Do you think Cleanspark has most of the future gains priced in? Or is Bitfarms that undervalued? You said Cleanspark 2x from here, 5x for Bitfarms. I think Cleanspark has definitely gotten valued more accurately here recently, right? I mean, they were trading just a year ago at like $2 or something like that, $2, $3. They're now at $15. They were at 20 some odd dollars, $23 just a couple of weeks ago. So they've been priced much more better recently. And that's why I think maybe with Bitfarms, they're way down as far as their value is concerned. So I think there might be a little bit more upside to them. But that's why I've been buying into both of these companies for the last 2 years because I just didn't know which one is going to outperform the other one. But I have really low price averages on those. So even if Cleanspark goes 5x from here, that's still going to be like, let's see, that's going to be like a 25x for me in general and overall, I think. I'm just doing the math in my head here. And Bitfarms, if obviously Bitfarms goes to, let's just say $15 or even $20, let's just say $20. At that point, that's going to be close to also like 15, 20x for me, from where my average is, right? So that's kind of the way I look at it. So I'm trying to figure out which one is currently more undervalued potentially from where they really should be. That's kind of where I've been kind of plowing my money into, if that makes sense. Do you know what the cost to mine BTC will be at 12 exahash and 21 exahash for Bitfarms? No, I haven't run the numbers yet for those, but it's going to be definitely lower. I mean, what I wouldn't say lower, depending what cost you're looking at. Are you looking at break-even costs, or are you looking just at the production side of things, which is cost of goods sold, or that's the way you look at it normally. So it's based on their electricity costs and everything else. Their efficiency is going to improve, so that should lower their cost in general on it, because that way they can mine more Bitcoin for less energy, right? So that should improve. How much it's going to improve, we'll have to see. How much megawatts does it require to operate 1 exahash on average? That all depends on the efficiency of the miners. So if we're looking at like the 200 terahash miners potentially, those are 3,500 watts, right? Let me see here. Let's see if we can do the math here on it really quick. I'll tell you what that might be. Just going to open up one of my mining calculator files, and you were talking about 1 exahash. So what would that take? So right now, let me see, 320 megawatts, you get 21 exahash roughly out of that, out of the latest S21 miners. So let's take, what is that, 320 divided by 21, excuse me. You're looking at approximately 15 megawatts on the latest miners. Right, probably a little bit more on some of the older miners, so maybe 17 megawatts or something like that to run 1 exahash on that. Okay. Will Sphere 3D or Annie get delisted after the halving? I don't think so, unless they go out of business. The stock price is still, I think, above $1 right now, isn't it? Let me double check. Annie is at $1.08. So then they have, I think, if they go below $1, they have, what is it, 90 days to 180 days to get the stock above $1, right? At that point, they can request an additional 90 or 180 days with NASDAQ to regain compliance of being above $1. And if that doesn't happen, then they might be delisted at that point. Let's see. Is Bitfarms and IREN dilution done or still ongoing? I believe it's still ongoing for Bitfarms. IREN stated they are fully funded to 20 exahash, but they still have, I think, some left on that ATM, which they could dilute. It's hard to tell. Do you think miners may peak in late 2024? Depends on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin goes. Sometimes the miners do front run a little bit Bitcoin by like a week. Sometimes I've seen it in bull runs. So we'll have to see. Right, depends on Bitcoin. Bitcoin continues to go up into 2025. Then we might peak sometime in 2025. But if we get a huge rally in Bitcoin where it goes from here to 200,000 or something like that by the end of this year, the miners might peak this year. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. Let's see. How do you evaluate future growth of Mara if they are utilizing or utilize joint ventures internationally? A lot of talk about geothermal energy in Africa. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about that. But does that mean that they're going to be in a joint venture over there? It doesn't really have to mean that. They could do it themselves also. And it just depends, like I said before, what is their percentage of the joint venture? Is it over 51%, which they have the controlling interest? Then they get to report it all, and you get the benefits on it on the other side of things for costs and things like that. So we'll have to see. See, how low can Bitfarms go? Well, I was buying it in 2022 in December for like 40 some cents. I mean, could it go that low again? Possibly, depending on where Bitcoin goes, right? If Bitcoin goes down to 15, or I wouldn't say 15,000 again, but that's where Bitcoin was last time when it was that low. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin goes down to like 35,000 or something like that, 30,000. Well, it could go much lower. But I think we're getting close to where the bottom is on all these miners, especially as we get closer to the halving event. And then things should improve if we look at historical cycles. If BTC at over 100,000, where do you see Riot's price depending on their operations? Have they improved their operations? Have they improved their uptime, their efficiency? Have they how much have they grown out CORZ facility? That's all going to depend on that. So it's right now it's tough. I know right now the stock is not doing really well because their operations in that facility. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but the one Rockdale. So it'll depend on that. If they can get really good operations out of CORZ, good growth out of that, Bitcoin gets to 100,000. At that point, they should be probably at least double from where they are right now. I would think, easy. Let's see here. The BTC ETF has been in hype and has been responsible for inhibiting the miners from going up. What is the possibility of miners regaining their ground or making new all-time highs? I think that's really good. It's a strong possibility. It's going to happen. And the reason I say that, the BTC has obviously taken hype, but the hype is being taken from people. No, excuse me, people that aren't or weren't going to be investing in the miners anyways because they're just so speculative, right? So you have the camp that is very conservative and things like that, and they just want to maybe put in 1% to maybe 5% of their portfolio allocation into the ETFs potentially, right? Normally like around 1%, I think is what people are recommending. So you got that happening there. That's kind of what's driving that ETF space more so. And then miners going into the halving have historically gone down in price. So I'm not surprised by this. I was surprised more so that it's taken so long for them to start coming down in price. I was expecting the miners to be going down a year ago before the halving event happens this time around, but we're only seeing that 3 months prior, right? So that's kind of the way I look at it. And I think once we get past this halving cycle, things will go back to obviously miners because there's obviously more leverage play on them. There's they're more volatile. And there's a lot of people that like the volatility where Bitcoin price binds go down in price and then go back up in price. When you DCA out of Cleanspark, will you be trimming down by greater than 50% of your first withdrawal? No, I'll probably be doing like 5-10% here and there. Won't be that big, right? We'll have to keep an eye on where Bitcoin's going, where the stock is going, price, things like that. But I won't be doing half because I just don't know where the top is going to be at. So as we get close to where I think what my conservative estimates were for Cleanspark, right? And if we were to get above that a little bit more, maybe I'll start trimming some more at that point. And if we go higher, I'll trim more. But I just don't know where the top is going to be. So I'm okay with taking some profits lower as long as I'm taking pretty good profits as well. All right, I don't want to be holding the bag again, thinking, oh, Bitcoin's going to 300,000 and only went up to 150,000. So. What is the short-term expansion plan for Bitfarms right now? When will they reach 12 exahash, and what should that put them in terms of stock price if Bitcoin remains in the current range of 60 to 70,000? Well, their expansion plans are 12 exahash by the end of Q2, I believe, and then the 21 exahashes at the end of the year. So if we're looking at right now getting 12 exahash, that'd be basically double from where they are right now. They're at 7 exahash right now, but it's basically a double for them from where they were. At that point, I would think they should be at least probably maybe around $3 to $4 at that point, right? Because they got more efficient miners. Their cost to mine is lower, more efficient. So we'll have to see, right? It's anybody's guess. I don't know exactly where things are going to go. I can just speculate as all day as far as how things are going to go, but it also depends on the sentiment of investors, I guess you could say. Do you think the efficient miners will do well after the April or May monthly updates as we will see the new hash rates and some miners have a higher share of network hash rate? Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to happen as the miners just continue to grow. Like Bitfarms, Riot, Cleanspark, all those guys. You got also TeraWolf in there, IREN, all those guys that are going to be growing here in the next couple months should see an improvement in their BTC mined. But obviously, we have the halving event that's going to cut their production down in half overnight. So we just want to continue to see growth going forward. Let me see here. With Hong Kong's ETFs, there is no Hong Kong GBTC to take from. Do you see this as the supply crunch we wanted from the US ETFs? Yeah, I mean, they're also being, the ETFs are in kind instead of in USD or whatever the currency is in Hong Kong. So that's different there a little bit as well. So you can change it in kind, which is what the ETFs wanted here, right, was to do in kind. So that way, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust could transfer over the BTC to their, I believe that was the case, that they wanted to transfer the BTC, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust wanted to transfer the BTC over to the ETFs in kind, where they didn't have to sell it and then repurchase it back into their ETFs that they were getting into, I believe. So it should be, I think, better from that standpoint, which I think is also going to be bullish, obviously, going forward for Bitcoin when that does happen, possibly this week. We'll see. If BTC hits 100, do you think IREN could be at 30 at that point? That's not that much from where we are right now. What is that? 40% or something like that higher. And IREN is, where's IREN right now? IREN is, looking at here, $4.65. I would say maybe a double to 2.5x from here potentially. It's hard to say, but not 30. That would be way too quick. Any reason you skipped? No. What was your question? Let me go back. Let me see if I can find you in here. Unless your question got removed because of whatever reason from. Let me see here. I see that one. Okay, I think I covered this question already before. This is the question you had before. What if Bitcoin drops to 45? It can be fun. Yeah, I already said that they will survive on that one. Let me see here. I covered your questions. Looking back through here, I see that I covered all your questions. It might be just because of the delay. There is a delay on this from when I see the questions and when you guys hear the responses to these. So just be patient, listen for those. I will get to them, but there is a delay. Let's see. Just curious, what are your thoughts on what Iris Energy are going to do with the last 200 million of the ATM, since they are already fully funded to 20 exahash, maybe more AI, or possibly 30 exahash in 2025? Yeah, they're probably going to use that for growth, I would imagine, right? They have a huge facility that they can build out it, and if they want to grow even more, they're going to use that ATM. Let's see here. Any marathon news? Not that I'm aware of. Did I miss something? If I missed something, let me know. Let's see here. Do you think Bitfarms will go lower to the next point of around $1? I don't know. It's possible. It all depends where Bitcoin goes, right? Let's see here. Thank you so much for the super thanks. Do you look into future AI revenue also, Hive? So for Hive, we really don't have that much data on it. I know Hive is making, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think it's like 250,000 per quarter last reported, I think, on AI side of things. The other companies that are getting into it obviously are like IREN is getting into it. BitDigital has a huge contract. We got CORZ getting into it as well. We got other companies looking into it as well. Right now, I think a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to be the profit margins on those. And at that point, if it's substantial, I might start covering some of those things, or at least adding them in to see what the potential overall revenue could be from those things as a company. Right now, we're just kind of looking at them as straight Bitcoin mining, self-mining, things like that. What could they be based on that? But if AI starts to become substantial to their bottom line, we may definitely have to include it into the numbers here. Okay. So if you have a position in Mara at slightly higher than the current price, do you continue to DCA or switch to a faster horses? If switching, which ones do you pick? That is up to you completely. I can tell you what I've done in the past, and I can give you the example with Cleanspark. So Cleanspark, like I said before, I was buying that in January of 2022, right at like $9. It went down to like, I think $1 something towards the very low end of it. And I just continued to buy down, right? So it depends more on your conviction in the company, where Bitcoin goes and everything else. And that is up to you, something that you have to decide as far as what you want to do, right? If you have conviction, my dollar cost average in. If you don't, then you may want to go with somebody else, but that's up to you. Do you think can speak? Do you think Riot will ever recover back to $30? Yes, this bull run definitely. Okay. No, it was about them building to 12 and 21 exahash. And that was, they're planning to get to 21 exahash by the end of this year, 12 exahash by the end of this quarter, I believe. But hit me up with the question if you have it, if I haven't answered it. Why is that Bitfarms stock keeps dropping when they got good news like Paraguay approval and some exahash? It's the market, overall market. Market's going down, right? Cleanspark had good news also that they're upgrading their purchases to the latest generation miners, which going to give them even better joules per terahash, more efficiency, things like that, and they still came down. So it's just the market. Good news or not good news, things are going down. Let's see. Will you still buy Bitfarms if it hits the below dollar levels? Yeah. I was buying it with like 40 some odd cents before. My average is like $1.39, something like that right now. So if it hits below that, I'm buying it. Yeah. Should I be worried about Marathon's price dropping rapidly? Depending when you got in, but I don't think that has anything. Well, it depends on your situation, right? I'm looking at these guys as a longer term play. So at least a year and a half out potentially before I start selling these things. So everything is coming down, not just Marathon, Riot, Cleanspark, Bitfarms, IREN. Everybody's coming down in price since pretty much the beginning of the year, right? Going into the halving event. That's normal. We've seen this before. It is a turbulent ride, I guess you could say, with the miners and the price action. You might have a day where they're up 30%, and the next day they're going to be down 40%, right? So that kind of goes with the territory. You kind of have to stomach this a little bit. And if you try trading them, it's obviously even more difficult and things like that. So that's why I usually just buy dollar cost average in if ones that I believe in are going to do well in the future. I could be wrong on that, right? But I'm willing to make that gamble. Let's see here. Do you have any opinion on the future of Gryphon mining? No, I wish them all the best. I wish any miner all the best, right? But they're just so small right now. That's the main reason why I don't cover them. I'm looking to only, right now, cover the miners that are at least getting to 5 exahash or more by the end of this year. And if we have some news that they're getting to that, maybe I will cover them. But right, being that small is going to be also kind of tough for them to raise capital, things like that, for them to really grow. And we've seen it with smaller miners. DMG, DGHI, Annie, right? Those miners as well, small, about 1 exahash or so to 2 exahash. They're having a hard time raising capital and things like that to grow. So it's tough for them. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on McNally and Powers getting paid by the companies? I'm okay with it, right? They do state it in their website and places like that they do it. I'm okay with it. They don't also go as deep as I do. I go maybe a little bit deeper than they do. I also provide you guys my price target estimates. They don't do that. They don't tell you where prices could possibly go. They don't give you a comparison, or not really a comparison, but what am I about saying? They just basically cover the news that's going on with the miners there. So it's their own thing that they're doing. Anthony's been in the space a long time. He's been doing it for a long time for free. I've been doing it for a long time too. And making very, very, very little on a monthly basis for the last 2 years. It's gotten a lot better here in the last couple of months. But prior to that, I'll be honest with you guys, I was making $300 through Patreon and YouTube for a long time, right? So it wasn't a big cash revenue source. But I love the space. I love covering the miners, and I'm investing in them anyway. So I'm just going to provide the information. If you guys like it, great. If you don't, okay, maybe it'll grow, but we'll see. So I'm okay with it. Let's see. Do you think Bitfarms can manage to get to 12 exahash and 20 by the dates you promised? I didn't promise any dates. They stated, I believe, that they're going to try to get to 12 exahash by the end of this first half of the year and 21 exahash by the end of the year. That is a lot of upgrades on a short period of time. They're at 7 exahash now, so they need basically 5 exahash in the next 2.5 months, right? Can they do that? I think so. We'll have to see. They do have infrastructure in Paraguay, other places like that they can build out. So we'll have to see. Right? There's no guarantees in that that's going to get done. It could be because of electrical components not getting plugged in, or electrical cables not getting connected properly, or getting delayed to get connected. There could be multiple variables that happen there. There's no guarantees that it's going to happen there. And with them, we don't really have the track record for them, like we do with like Cleanspark and maybe some other ones that have stated that the goal is to get to 6 exahash by the end of the year, and they actually do it or surpass it, right? They've been kind of laying low here for the last year and a half or so, paying down their debt, and now they're getting to that phase of build out, right? So now we need to see how well can they build out, and there's no guarantees to it. Let's see if I have any other questions. Do you believe anyone will grow larger than Mara in total exahash when Mara has large cash Bitcoin position to expand more than anyone? Right now, right now, based on what we're seeing, there's definitely a possibility. You got pretty good, strong contenders with Riot and Cleanspark, right? They might actually overtake them as far as hash rate. Riot's got plans to get to 100 exahash in the next couple years. I think in the next is it 2 to 3 years? Correct me if I'm wrong in that. Cleanspark's already got machines basically purchased for 50 exahash, right? That's larger than Marathon is right now. Marathon's having production issues, right? So that's not boding well for them, but they do have a huge hodl position. They do have huge cash balance sheet. So they can actually do really good and do well going forward, but they just need to execute. That's the only thing. Let's see. Okay. I just answered your question here just a second ago. Let's see. Does Bitcoin having increased Bitcoin farm stock price or decrease it? Well, we're seeing the price go down right now because of it, right? Because of the halving event, it decreases all these guys' stocks because the thought process by investors is that there's going to be less revenue after the halving, right? So the prices are coming down. So we're already seeing that anyway. Let's see. Already answered that one. Yes, if it falls below $1, I'll still buy it. I was buying it at like 40 some odd cents when it was at the lows in December of 2022. So I'll buy again. What if there's no bull run, the cycle and Bitcoin just goes sideways? We're going to have a lot of miners that are going to be going out of business. And at that point, the strongest will survive. So we'll see. Let's see. Aside from the Bitcoin halving, in your opinion, what else do you find to be the big catalyst that triggers FOMO during the cycles? Regulations, I think, is one thing that triggers FOMO, FOMO, fear of missing out. So on that side of things, I think it's the revenue side of things, right? So if the miners, it costs them like $50,000, $60,000 all in to basically break even on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin's above that price, right, it's all profits after that. So if you're looking at Bitcoin getting to 100,000, that's basically, 100% profit at that point, right? Yeah, 100% profit. Bitcoin goes up to 150, that's 200% profit. It goes up to 200,000, that's 300% profit, I believe. If my math is right. Doing it in my head. But that's kind of the catalyst that really drives Bitcoin price and the miners more so. Let's see. I think I'm getting close to getting caught up here. Why is Mara uptime so bad? They could have 30 exahash in one day, then go down to 7 exahash. Don't think it was Hut managing them. No, they are having issues with the power components at those facilities, whether it's the transformers or other things. They're just having issues with them. And I don't know if that's because they were running so hot in December, right? They were pretty much like 100% uptime at that point. I don't know if that was the case that caused a lot of the issues that they had after that, because you saw in January their production was down, February their production is down, March you saw their production was down as well. So I don't know if that was the case of it. Did they overload the transformers there potentially? I don't know. I don't have the insight on that, but that's kind of what I'm thinking a little bit. It would be nice to obviously get some clarification on there. They have come out and said that they're working on it, trying to resolve it, but some of the issues might take a couple months to get resolved because there's delays on equipment and things like that. So yeah, I mean, if they were operating right now at like 30 exahash or something like that, but also when you look at the Mara pool info, the 30 exahash is just an calculated number where they could be based on the number of BTC that was mined at that point, right? So that's not always very accurate on that number. So just be mindful of that. You're very welcome. Let's see. How long have passed, for how long past the halving miners will suffer? Last cycle was about 6 to 8 weeks, I think, after that. They didn't suffer like hard. I mean, they suffered because the halving came, but the price of the miners at that point was kind of flat. They were down a little bit, maybe 5% from where the halving happened, so it wasn't that bad. But it's all going to depend on Bitcoin, right? I keep saying Bitcoin goes up, they're going to do well. Bitcoin trades sideways is going to be obviously a little bit more painful for them. Question: have you considered the top could be in on the BTC? Miners already in declining phase. No, the top's not in Bitcoin right now. I mean, it's a different cycle that we've had before, right? Bitcoin's already reached a new all-time high before the halving event. That's never happened before. And I think that's being driven by spot Bitcoin ETFs. And the miners are declining because they're getting into the halving event. We've seen that last cycle. We're seeing the same thing now. It's just taken us, it's basically shortened period. Before it was a year before the halving event, they're going down. This time it's only 3 months. So the period where they're going down has shortened, which in a way is good because they actually could be even lower in price, I think, at that point. Let's see. If Bitcoin didn't exist, what would you be investing in? Oh, wow. Heck, I don't know. Probably have to find something to do. Maybe at that point, probably doing like maybe real estate, things like that. Trying to maybe get into like Rivian, some of the tech companies and things like that. Trying to see if I can find the next Amazon or something like that. I don't know. What other stocks do I invest in? I only have Rivian right now is the other stock that I had. I had a little bit more of it, but I sold a bunch of it because I thought that's a more longer time frame stock to own. Whereas the miners are right now, I think, getting obviously into the bull run potentially. That's going to be a shorter time frame to invest, so I plowed money into that. What other ones do I have? I think that's it as far as stocks are concerned. I still own some crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano. I think I still have. What else do I have? Doge, HBAR, and something else in there. Can't remember. But I don't even track those really. I don't even look at them that much. I'm just trying to maybe some of the other ones. Bitcoin, Ethereum, I'll hold on to. But the other ones, I want to get rid of this cycle. I'm done with altcoins. Let's see. If the war escalates, are you still buying? Well, if the war escalates, gosh, I hope it doesn't do that. We don't need another war. We need more peace, more love in this world than hate and everything else. I'll have to reevaluate things at that point, right? Right now, I think what's going on is kind of just a little prodding between the sides, right? What can they get away with? And hopefully it doesn't escalate to a full war. But if that happens, we'll have to look at it and see what happens there. Bitcoin was still going on when the war in Iraq was happening, right? Well, I mean, Bitcoin's been around for what now? 13 years? 13, 15 years? Can't remember exactly. But that still did pretty well. I don't know if that's going to have a huge impact on it. I think the bigger impact is going to be obviously on the impact of economics on people's lives. So if the war gets going, it's prolonged and things like that, and prices on energy goes up or something like that, that's going to lead to everything else going up in price. That's going to make it where people don't have as much cash, and that could have an impact on Bitcoin at that point. People are not going to be buying it, right? So we'll see, but I hope it doesn't get to that. Depending where Bitcoin goes. So price prediction for Bitfarms in June 24, September 24. I don't have a crystal ball. If they can get to 21 exahash, Bitcoin gets up to 150, 200,000. We're looking definitely much higher than we are right now, but we'll see. Let's see. What's the latest on Riot? And of course, I kind of think they can execute on their ambitious goal this year. The Rivian the R3X looks super cool. Yeah, I mean, that looks pretty cool. But of course, kind of, on that one, I think they can. They're going to be energizing a bunch of miners, I believe, this month already at that facility. And they are obviously working on other facilities, building out in there as well. So the growth should be pretty steady going forward for them, which would be really nice for them. And I just think they're going to operate a lot better at that facility. But trust and verify, right? So we need to see how well they do over there. I'm a little nervous about Bitfarms. Will they be able to execute their plan to 12x, 21x? How much time miners take to come in green post halving? To become green, you're going to need, well, for some of these guys, they're going to have to be, at least above 50,000 or 60,000 for Bitcoin price to break even. For some others, it's maybe a little bit higher, but as miners are increasing their hash rate, getting newer miners, that break-even cost comes down. And Bitfarms is doing that, so I'm not too worried about them getting to it. Could they be delayed a little bit, right, to getting 12 exahash by a month or two? Possibly, we just don't know. 21 exahash, could they be delayed by a month or two? Possibly, could be. But as long as it's not a year that they're delayed on, I'm not too worried about it. Let's see. Thoughts on Cardano? Where does it stand among top altcoins? I don't know. I don't get into altcoins anymore. I lost money on altcoins in the past. I got burned by them. I don't get into them anymore. I like being able to track things like the miners, where you have growth plans and all this other stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Let's see. If the BOC cut rate in June ahead, Fed, what do you think Bitfarms? Well, if they cut the rates, that's going to be bullish for all the miners, because then you're going to have, obviously, it's going to be bullish for risk on assets, right? So, all right, I think we are caught up with all the questions. I don't see anything else popping in here. So we've been going on this for what? About an hour. Okay. So appreciate you guys coming in here. Greatly do appreciate you all. We have a lot of fun here. Talk about a lot of great stuff. I learn a lot of stuff from you guys in the questions and things like that make me think, which is great. And then what do we got going on tomorrow? Tomorrow we got nothing going on. Tomorrow I'm taking the day off. But then we'll get it back into the swing. I think it's a Monday. If we have anything to cover at that point, we'll do that. We'll maybe look at some other metrics that I have for you guys as well. And we'll see where things go from that. Yeah. But that is it. So thank you so much for coming in. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. It's going to be nice where I'm at, so I'm going to be spending the time outside tomorrow, having fun. Hope you guys are doing the same thing. Go out and touch the grass a little bit sometimes, and don't look at the charts too much. You might go a little blind with all the red that's out there right now. All right, that's it. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys in the next one.